Clubhouse. 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 Thank you. Clubhouse. Clubhouse. Thank you. Clubhouse. 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 Thank you.
A one, a two, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, why do they count? I don't know. Good morning. I hope everyone is well. It is 4:22 a.m. of a Saturday. It's a weekend. Lovely. It's raining outside. My God, there's nothing more pleasant to wake up early and it's raining outside. I think for a lot of people, if it's raining, yeah, it's a bad thing. And it is. It's really inconvenient when it rains to be outdoors. But my God, there's just something lovely, magical, maybe, about just the entire world around you is being consumed by raindrops that fall from the heavens. I suffer from ADD. I have ADD, and so my mind's always on and working really fast. But when I'm in the rain, it's quiet. It's so relaxing. I'm not too sure why, but I do find it therapeutic to just, I don't know, stand out in the rain, walk in the rain. And yes, I know it's crazy, but it's also lovely, you know? I might have a little rain walk later. Yeah, I think that's nice. And then I'll go back in my house, maybe change my clothes if they're wet, not complicated. So I'm just hearing in my mind my family, just thinking, what the hell's wrong with Andrew? Why is he walking in the rain? How dare he? How controversial. We better call the cops. It's lovely. It's really, really nice. And coastal walks on the water when it rains, forget about it. It's like the heaven and the earths unite, right? Because, water on earth, water in the sea, water in the sky, water in the atmosphere. It's all consuming and lovely sometimes. Several weeks ago, a couple of months ago, actually, let's get specific. It's June now, and this would have been in March and April. I was in the grips of the more extreme parts of my mania, and I was doing things that I never thought I'd ever do, but I was in such a vulnerable state. It's hard to explain what compelled me to do what I did and why I was in that state of mind, but I just know that, actually, yeah, I know what it was. So for Lebanese Maronites, you remember when you got a bashing from your parents, right? And then you just sort of like lay down and you just sob like this. You just sob on the floor, right? And then you start thinking, how much you hate your parents for giving you, a beating. That sort of state where you come recovering from a bashing, and you haven't recovered from a bashing, you're still sort of shivering. That was me for about 2 or 3 months. It was really odd where my mind went back to, and it really did feel like I was back as an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, 10-year-old emotionally. I felt so vulnerable. And then because of the way that I was feeling and the things that I was doing, it was making my family react aggressively, let's say. And then so they kept making it worse because they kept calling the police because I'd put letters in my Uncle Maroon's mailbox saying that he was a coward. And that shocked them so much that they just kept calling the police. And so every time the police came, it made me not angrier. I didn't react aggressively. It just added to that, how would you say, that weight in my chest, right? And what I realized was that I was just processing that hurt in my chest, let's say, that thing that you feel when you're trying to repress tears, goes in your throat and then down to your chest and then it goes away. But for me, it just didn't go away. I was so hurt and traumatized by my extended family's behavior that it made me snap and led to a manic episode where I began to exhibit these really odd, uncharacteristic behaviors, like posting those disgusting posts on Facebook. That was a reaction to stonewalling. And stonewalling is when your abuser cuts off all communication from you and refuses to speak to you or acknowledge you. That's what my father did, and that's what my Uncle Maroon did. And they were directed, my first cousin Saeed and Majid were directed to fix me. And their version of fixing me was to convince the builder to not pay me the money that was owed to me. They refused to give me back the vehicle that I was paying for. They took the house keys from the property that I owned with my father and kept it and refused to give it to me. And on top of that, they were spreading the most malicious, disgusting rumors about me and my state of mind to everyone that I knew. Remember, they're my family, and the overwhelming majority of the people that I know in my life are my family. And they were trying to ruin my life by discrediting me to my family. And they didn't even have the respect to speak to me about what they were doing. So it made me madder. And so the Facebook posts, when they weren't sort of working to, say, impact them, to make them understand how much that they were hurting me, it just progressed, escalated. I never did anything against the law, and I never lied to anyone about anything, and I never stole anything from anyone at any point ever. I sent a extraordinarily vulgar, violent and vile message to over a dozen people on my WhatsApp group, castigating people like my Uncle Maroon. Is castigating the right word? But basically just going at not people directly, but just expressing how angry and just upset I was, but in a very I really wanted to get the point across that they are mad like crazy, and they were making me crazy, kind of thing, right? And I wanted to do something that would impact them, because when I was in high school, I'd grown up with Lebanese bullies all my life, and I know how to deal with them. And one thing that Lebanese Maronites are extremely conservative and fearful. Right? So I knew that I was never going to sort of win at a punch up, right? I can now, by the way. But I was always good, like psychologically, right? So if someone wanted to sort of bridge up to me, I would just turn gay and try to kiss them on the lips, right? And that would work. So for this, I did that. I kept repeating my reprieve. Not reprieve. What's the word? Anyway, the thing that I kept repeating in this 17-minute audio message was "fuck me, Manny." How did I say it? I said like "fuck me, Manny, fuck me." God. Um. Sorry, I just find it so funny. But by the way, sorry, I got vile. And I'm gonna say this in you know the I'm gonna say this in a G-rated way, right? Just so you can understand how absurd their reaction was. I want to maybe PG. I want to shower in someone's. Anyway, doesn't matter. Shower in their blood. I said shower in their blood. Very disgusting, very vile. I want to hurt them, make them bleed, shower in their blood. Okay. Dude, that's like well, firstly, that's Bloody Mary, right? That's the story. She used to put people in cages and like cut them and they'd bleed. Hanging cages or hang them up, make them bleed, and then she'd sort of like. But it's disgusting and vile sort of stuff, right? That was the point. I wanted it to be as disgusting and vile and as possible to elicit a response. And I also wanted to make sure that I wasn't serious, that I didn't, like, I'm not sitting down thinking that I'm going to do anything, right? So I call Youssef, my cousin Youssef, to just, after, I sent it, I give him about an hour to listen to it, and I'm really eager to see his opinion, because I call him 3 times, and we finally speak, and you listen to it, and bit weird, Andrew, sort of cringe, and I laughed. I said, "Yeah, that's the point." I love that for someone that knew me, they could sort of contextualize that and understand. Okay, that's a bit cringy. Why are you sort of saying all these sort of things, right? And my sister saw it and she was disgusted, and she gave me an earful, and she was so upset that she sent the message to my wife, and it was never intended for my wife because it'd disturb her, right? And look, when I made the message, I was in an emotional state. It was wrong of me to make that message, right? In and of itself, let me just sort of say that. But I was suffering from a manic episode, and I felt like I had so much emotion. I was gonna explode. And for me, the more responsible thing to do was to channel that rage into an audio message rather than be destructive. Because I found it really, really hard to just ignore it. So I felt like I had to do something. And when I say do something, I meant do something in reaction to what my family had done to me. And that was the day that I found out that Majid, Toke, Maroon's son, had stolen not just $40,000 from the builders, but $100,000. So my income was gone now. So I felt like the message was justified in that sense, although I'm embarrassed by it. Just because it's not pleasant to listen to. but I felt that it was important for my family to hear. I really did. And I think it's also so they understood how angry they were making me and how kind of crazy and vile my mind is. I don't know. I think in a way it might have been a threat or supposed to be threatening, maybe. But uh, it was important for me to send it to a group of people so I can gauge how people react to a message like that. And it was sufficiently gross that people blocked me. But for the people that were close to me and actually cared, they stuck by me, they understood, and we sort of discussed why it was that I was sending those messages and how it wasn't okay and how this whole back and forth between my family needs to stop, and I just need to focus on medication and stabilizing my mood, which is 100% true. Because the reason why I had that emotional outburst was because of my bipolar disorder and the fact that I was going unmedicated specifically for my mood. Because what led to me making that audio message was me entering into, an aggressive state, right? Anger, right? Because my mood wasn't stable because I wasn't medicated, right? So that was the conversation, the correct conversation that arose as a reaction to that message, because remember, I'm vulnerable and I'm hurting, and I sort of can't. It's sort of like a faucet, like a tap that I can't turn off. When I get at that level, I feel compelled to express it. You know what I mean? Facebook posts, putting flyers in my family's mail so they can see, how I feel. Whatever I needed to do to help me process the emotions that were coming up and that were quite overwhelming. My cousin Saeed and Majid went to the police and convinced them that I was crazy, and they went to my house, and because of what Saeed and Majid said, they arrested me. They went to my house and they said that I'll have to go into their custody and I do not have a choice. This was the day that Tony passed away. This was Tuesday, I want to say. Wednesday? Tuesday, I think. When I was at the police station, I heard recordings of Saeed and Majid being interviewed at the police station, at Auburn Police Station. They went to the police station. They not only contacted the police, but each brother was interviewed in relation to me. They tried so hard to convince the police to arrest me. And once the police interviewed me, they understood that I was struggling with a significant mental health disorder. And although I was doing things that were, let's say, gross, for lack of a better term, because that message was gross, right? I wasn't showcasing any behavior that would suggest that I'm actually harmful or violent or unhinged, right? I had manic episodes that I dealt with at that time that expressed itself through aggressive audio messages, but I didn't actually want to go through with anything that I said. And I never did, and I never came close to cutting someone and bathing in their blood, for God's sakes. I specifically said things that anyone that knew me would know that it was a joke, not a joke. Forget about it, because the language was such that it was beyond, a joke, right? But that I wasn't serious, and that I was in a very vulnerable mental state. And the last thing that someone should have done is call the police to try to arrest me, because that makes the situation worse. Saeed and Majid went to the police station and were interviewed by the police to try to get me arrested, while Tony was dying in his hospital bed. And he died while I was in hospital. My lovely hospital band. And mind you, it was unlawful for me to leave the hospital. If I left, the police would have come back and arrested me. So because Saeed and Majid had been interviewed by the police and gave them their perspective of me with the evidence of the audio message, the police felt that I had to get a psychiatric evaluation before, I was sent back into the community. And mind you, when I sent that audio message, I knew that there were going to be consequences. And I was preparing for them. And one of the things was that I was going to be arrested by the police. So it didn't surprise me. I just thought that my Uncle Charlie was the one that was going to do it. The fact that Saeed and Majid went to the police of their own accord to try to have their first cousin, a father of 3 with a pregnant wife, arrested for sending an audio message. Let that sink in. While I was in hospital, Tony passed away. The reason why they went to the police was because they were afraid of me, I suppose. And perhaps they got it into their head that I'm demonic, I'm possessed, because that's what they believe. It's 2024, and they do not believe in mental health disorders, anxiety and depression, but they do believe in demonic possession. A lot of what my family thought was happening was demonic possession, because archaic cultures confuse mental health disorders for demonic possessions. It's 2024, and Saeed and Majid reacted to my mental health disorder by cutting 3 pieces of structural pine and creating a crucifix at the front of their house as a way to protect their family from me. The same family that had stolen $100,000 from me 2 months prior. The same family that is still driving my ute that I am paying for. The same family that took the keys from my house, that prevents me from renting and leasing my property, reacted to me being upset by putting 3 pieces of timber together in the shape of a crucifix and drilling it to their front wall, the external wall of their house. I love that. That just made me chuckle when I saw that, because it's cheap timber, by the way. It's rushed. You know, I know them, and I know that they don't really they don't think, they react. Oh, Andrew's gone crazy, he's demonic. I hope he doesn't do anything. Let's put 3 pieces of cheap timber together in the shape of a crucifix to show people that we're Christian and that we believe that this may help us. It was just appalling that they would do that in lieu of actually being a good Christian and calling me and helping and understanding where the hurt was coming from. I haven't spoken to them, but Saeed's behind on his loan repayments, and my uncle Maroon is very behind on the Happy Lion home loan payments. So I think they're just struggling financially, and they have no idea how to invest money or understand credit. And I think that that's proven beyond the shadow of a doubt. You know, the issue that I was facing with them was very much personal, financial, familial. You know, I worked with them for a year. I had so much money tied in with them. I had sacrificed so much of my time and emotional energy, you know, for them. And when everything fell apart, they thought that the devil did it. It couldn't be them, right? They're perfect. They go to the police for father sending audio message because that's a, you know, reasonable response. Lord, they don't understand anything that's happening with them financially. They are archaic, simple folk, and they revert back to their Bible in a very unhealthy, crude manner. I'm not saying anything about the validity of putting a crucifix on your front wall. Like, that's fine. But it's the kind of crucifix that you put, you know, that sort of says a lot about you. And that attitude, you know, extends to their farm in Mudgee. Again, a crucifix made of, I think, tree trunks, like poles, right? Timber poles. But it's ghastly because it's covered in reflective, like reflective lights or whatever. So when you're driving to the farm at night, you can make out the cross because it's full of those reflective sort of, you know, things that you see on the road. That's disgusting. That's a crucifix, not a road sign, right? But to them, there's no difference because they don't value that symbol, right? So they could just litter it with red reflective circles, let's say. Saeed was reading the Bible about 5 or so years ago. Well, he'd started, I think when I was speaking to him, he was on Deuteronomy, which is the most boring book of the Old Testament. It's just where God lists a bunch of stuff that you're not allowed to do. Poor Jews that take Deuteronomy seriously. I don't know how far he got. I don't think he understood it because of the way that he behaved. Very unchristian, very appalling. Yeah, and I think that's what I wanted to make this episode about. It was important for me to say that and to allow people to hear my side of the story, especially in relation to the very vile audio message. Rida, heard it. David Romanos heard it. Sam Romanos heard it, and he blocked me. But his son, Luke, heard it. Yusuf heard it. My sister heard it. My mum heard it. The police heard it. Saeed and Majid heard it. Sandy heard it. Yeah. Yeah, even Sandy heard it. And I made some really sort of crude and vile comments relating to Sandy as well. And I think that might have really triggered Saeed and Majid. You know, the fact that I'm mentioning their sister Sandy, you know. But, you know, for me, it's about their entire family as a unit, right? And how they come across. And I just wanted to make the point that their shit stinks as well, right? You know, they just walk around like their shit doesn't stink. And there's behaviors that every single member of that family exhibit that proves that they are just as broken and just as, you know, hurt, you know, as all of us. And they're imperfect and they have issues and they ought to resolve their issues. But first they have to acknowledge that they have a problem. And I am so proud that I was able to be that person, you know, that really sort of holds up a mirror to them, you know, and let them and everyone know the kind of people that they are, because that's important. That's very Tolstoy-esque. And before I go, I just want to mention one of the flyers that I put up with a photo of my Uncle Maroon was a flyer where I call my Uncle Maroon Sancho Panza. I love that because at that time I actually wanted to make my flyers more positive. I hated the crude, disgusting things that I was saying on Facebook, and I was yearning for just something nice to say or do, but I was still hurt, right? So I wanted to do something that I knew would sort of make them uncomfortable, but that was also kind of nice, right? So instead of calling him a coward, you know, I made this beautiful poster with like a field and everything. And, you know, I say that, and it's a photo of my Uncle Maroon, close-up shot of his face. And then, you know, there's the text, Sancho Panza. And Sancho Panza is the, how do you say he's the assistant or he's the helper? I forgot the name of Don Quixote. He's the person that is following Don Quixote, right? In the book, Don Quixote of La Mancha. Don Quixote might be my favorite book. No, it's not my favorite book. My favorite book's The Idiot. Or The Karamazov. Anyway, or The Death of Ivan Ilyich. But anyway, yeah, I love that I sort of made that literary connection because my Uncle Maroon is Sancho Panza. So Sancho Panza is a moron and a buffoon that is following a delusional moron and a buffoon, right? So Don Quixote is obsessed with these books of chivalry, knights, you know, saving women, and he's obsessed by them. So he wants to become a knight himself, but he's just a simple bloke. But he's like, nah, I'm a knight now, and you know, he pretends that he's a knight, and by the way, oversimplifying the heck out of the story, doesn't matter, okay? Delusional guy that thinks he's a knight, right? And he runs around, you know, he rides around Mexico or whatever it was, South America, Spain. Anyway, I don't know where it was written, I forgot. Spanish, yeah? No, Spain. Yeah, he's riding around on his horse with Sancho Panza, and there's this really famous scene where he comes to this windmill, and he thinks the windmill is a monster. And he goes and he starts, you know, he starts attacking the windmill with a sword, you know, and Sancho Panza's there with him. And that's my Uncle Maroon with my Uncle Charlie, you know, and the family trust or it's sort of like my Uncle Charlie and the windmill, my Uncle Charlie's Don Quixote, and perhaps I'm the windmill. Look, it's Andrew. He's a monster. We have to. Blah, blah, blah. Or it was Maroon. Oh, Maroon's a monster. Blah, blah, blah. He sees monsters everywhere, my Uncle Charlie, just like Don Quixote, because they're both delusional, pathetic figures. And guess who's following that delusional, pathetic figure? Sancho Panza, my Uncle Maroon, the buffoon. Sorry if it's mean, but it's true to me, or at least that's what it feels like. And I think it's not that bad to say that to compare my uncle to a famous literary figure. Let's just leave it at that. Sancho Panza, Uncle Maroon. All right. Love you.